Hello, friends. Today we're going to discuss how to create a game plan for your very first jiu-jitsu tournament. We're going to cover two things you have to do before the tournament and four things you must do on the day of to ensure you have the best chance of success. My name is Chris Matakas. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt and school owner. I've written 13 books about using jiu-jitsu as a vehicle for personal development. And we created this channel because so many people don't fulfill their potential on or off the mats, and I don't want you to be one of them. Now, for you, maybe part of your potential is to be fulfilled through competition. So we want to make sure you have the most successful outing you can. So here's some things we want to think about when creating your own game plan to maximize success. So I always encourage my competitors to have two game plans, a game plan for on top and a game plan for on bottom. This is your game, the techniques and strategies that you feel you can reliably achieve success with. And really, your takedown abilities relative to your partner will determine which game plan you use. So I encourage all the athletes to go out there, and if this is someone you can take down, then you play your top game, where you work your takedowns, positional advancements, and you find your submission. But if you're training, or rather, if you're competing with this individual and you quickly realize, I can't take this person down, they're more skilled on the feet than I am, then we go to our second game plan, which is the guard pull game plan, where you work from there. So you really want to have two clear pathways through the competition based on that initial obstacle or opportunity of how comfortable you are in the takedown game relative to the person you're competing against. Now, this kind of presupposes that you have the skill and capacity to play either a top game or a bottom game, which is important and which really needs to be developed long term. Hopefully that's starting to be developed already, but that would be what I would do from a game plan standpoint. Have a plan for on top, a plan for on bottom, practice both of these in training, and then in that moment of decision, when you get out there on the mat and you lock up and you feel or you visualize and see your opponent's stand-up ability, that dictates which game plan you use. So that's important. That's first. Second, a great question to ask in your training leading up to this tournament is, how would I beat myself in competition? And then that will reveal our weaknesses that must be troubleshooted prior to the competition. So maybe you're like, I feel pretty good on top, but my guard's pretty bad. If I had to compete against me, I would just take myself down and through a war of attrition pass my own guard, knowing that my guard would eventually fail. Then that means you need to prioritize guard in your training to troubleshoot those weak spots to make it more difficult to beat yourself. So I think if you view training leading up to a competition, it's almost like three components. This is a general rule, but it's super helpful. You practice your top game, you practice your bottom game, and then you practice troubleshooting all the ways in which you're weak. And if you constantly do that, you sort of create this like circumambulating process toward creating a concrete game that you can rely on in the tournament. So that's super helpful. So now, what do we do on the day of? I think one of the biggest mistakes competitors make in the beginning is we don't know how to warm up properly. And it's a challenge, right? Because you don't exactly know when you're going to be competing. You could be, you show up, you weigh in, you go, or you could have an 8-hour wait, or it could be anything in between. So the general rule is you want to be sweating when you step onto the mat to compete. So we want to warm up effectively to actually break a sweat. Now, the challenge is for most of us in training, you usually have a warm up in class, you drill for 45 minutes to an hour, and then you train. And as you train in live training, the pace gradually escalates till that fourth or fifth match when you're just getting after it. But a tournament is the opposite. You go from warm up to getting after it. So a skill that we need to train is the ability to warm up effectively. Now, sometimes there are mats that you can warm up on where you get to drill and roll around with your teammates, but sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's just a gymnasium and all you have access to is a jump rope and the floor. And that's where I think it's worthwhile to practice the skill of warming up so that you have a reliable way to get your body into a state of peak performance. So I would purposefully think about, how do I want to warm up when I may not have access to the mats that allows me to be successful on the mat when I compete. So we want to warm up properly. And while you're warming up, you're visualizing, executing on your game plans and getting those mental reps as well. Now, a tournament is a very long day. So we always want to be over prepared with three things, really. You want to have ample food, and based on what your weight is relative to your weight class, what that food may be will change. But you want enough fuel so that if you are competing, say at 10 in the morning or 10 at night, you are well fueled. You don't have to worry about it. You're not stressing about it. You're not eating like the bad concession stand food. Plan ahead. So you want ample food. You also want ample water. You would be surprised how much water you consume in a day, especially when your goal is to be sweating prior to stepping onto the mat. You don't know when that is. You might warm up 3, 4, 5 times, breaking these little sweats over time. Not to mention, you're a little bit heightened in stress because of the event of the day. So bring ample water as well. And then I think a third component, you need something to occupy your attention. Because, like, I remember my first tournament, I got there at 9 a.m., and I don't think I competed until about 10 p.m. So my default was always I would bring a book, sometimes 2 books. You need something that's going to keep you calm and hold on to your attention so you're not stressing yourself out. So for me, it's a book. Maybe it's, your iPad, you're watching a movie, whatever it is, but something to let the hours pass in a way that serves you. And then on top of that, you want to pre-plan with your teammates to ensure you have a partner there with you who's going to support you throughout the day, who's going to help you warm up, and really importantly, who's going to be your coach when you're going. And even if they don't know more than you do, to have a coach on the sideline to be able to tell you what the score is, how much time is left, that's invaluable. You don't want to be looking up at the clock in the middle of the tournament. So it's really useful to have that kind of support. And then lastly, and I think this is also underrated that people don't do this that much, is when you are competing, you're going to be in a bracket and you're all going to be on the same mat and you're all going to be waiting and they're going to call you out 2 at a time. One of the best things you can do is watch these matches, see what the other competitors are doing, because you will meet them in the second, third, or fourth round. So it's really helpful to see what kind of style they implement, what game they're playing. And that will help us with our first decision of do we play our A top game or our B bottom game. And watching how they compete, it will help you better understand the proper path forward. So those are all the things I think that we really want to do and get right to game plan and give ourselves the best opportunity for success in our first tournament. So quick review, running down the list. You want to have a top go-to game and a bottom go-to game and make the clear decision which one you're going to implement. You want to understand how would I beat myself in a competition, and you troubleshoot and train those areas leading up to a competition. Then on the day of, we warm up properly, training that skill beforehand so that you are ready to get your body into a state of peak performance so you can succeed. We want to visualize executing our game plan while we're warming up. We want to have ample food, water, and something to garner our attention. And then you want to have a teammate or several teammates there with you to support you and ensure that you have the support you need mid-match to know the time, the score, etc. And then when you are competing, when you're off the mat, watch the other competitors, see what they're doing, see what holes they have in their game, and allow that to inform future decision-making in the next match. So I hope that's useful. And if you are competing for the first time, congratulations, because it means you're putting yourself in a position to do something incredibly difficult. And as a result, you will grow tremendously. So I applaud that effort. If this was useful, please subscribe to the channel. I would love to stay connected. And I wish you absolute success in jiu-jitsu and off the mat as well. So thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. And I'll talk to you real soon. Good luck in your first tournament.